Bapak-bapak, selamat pagi. Ada bapak-bapaknya, jadi saya juga makin semangat gitu ya. Terima kasih untuk kehadirannya. Ini kesempatan yang sangat baik buat kita. Kita kedatangan Dr. Yeap Ban Har yang akan memberikan pencerahan gitu ya terkait dengan matematika. Kita juga bersyukur, oh ya Dr. Yeap Ban Har didampingi oleh Ibu Koni dari Pahoa dan kita juga bersyukur untuk kehadiran Ibu Betty Murni, pengawas sekolah kita, yang biasanya kan pegawai negeri sampai Jumat ya Bu ya. Karena Demisi Daya Bintang, Sabtu pun jadi kerja gitu ya Bu ya. Terima kasih ya Bu untuk kehadirannya. Ibu Murni sangat mendampingi kita ya. Beberapa event juga udah hadir, beliau hadir. Nah Bapak Ibu, di kesempatan ini kita akan manfaatkan sebaik-baiknya gitu ya, berkenalan. Pasti namanya sering didengarkan ya, di video kita aja disebutkan Dr. Yeap Ban Har. Nah biasanya kalau kita presentasi juga disebutkan namanya. Nah yang tadinya nama sekarang jadi ada wajah, jadi hadir secara fisik, yang ini sangat baik buat kita semua. Untuk Ibu Betty mau menyampaikan sesuatu, kami persilahkan. Bu, silahkan Ibu.
Iya, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih kepada Kepala Sekolah yang terhormat, Ibu Kepala Sekolah, Ibu guru-guru semuanya, juga orang tua yang pada kesempatan ini hadir, dan juga mungkin maaf itu narasumber juga yang pada kesempatan ini hadir. Terima kasih. Ini adalah suatu kehormatan bagi saya bisa hadir di tempat ini, di mana saya sebagai pengawas bina di Kecamatan Gedebage, di mana sekolah Sedaya Bintang adalah merupakan sekolah binaan kami. Oleh karena itu, ini adalah suatu kesempatan yang baik buat semuanya, baik bagi Bapak Ibu guru dan juga orang tua yang hadir dalam kesempatan ini. Ini adalah suatu momen di mana kita bisa menambah ilmu pengetahuan terkait dengan matematika, dan ini merupakan pembelajaran yang bisa memberikan motivasi kita untuk bagaimana cara mendidik anak-anak untuk mencintai matematika dengan memberikan pembelajaran yang bisa anak-anak itu menyenangkan bagi anak, dan juga anak-anak mencintai matematika. Dan ini merupakan karena pelajaran matematika ini adalah pelajaran yang sangat penting bagi anak-anak kita untuk meningkatkan kemampuan dan kecerdasan terkait dengan logikanya. Oleh karena itu saya merasa senang pada kesempatan ini, di mana sekolah kita ini memberikan fasilitas bagi kita untuk meningkatkan atau membuka wawasan kita terkait dengan matematika ini. Oleh karena itu, ini adalah momen yang sangat baik untuk dijadikan momen yang baik bagi kita untuk meningkatkan kompetensi ini. Untuk itu sekali lagi saya mengucapkan terima kasih. Ini adalah bisa dijadikan manfaat bagi kita yang hadir pada kesempatan ini. Mungkin itu saja yang bisa saya sampaikan. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Ibu Betty Murni. Baik Bapak Ibu, kita akan memulai sesi kita. Kita akan berdoa dulu sesuai dengan agama dan kepercayaan kita masing-masing. Mari berdoa dimulai. Berdoa selesai. Bapak Ibu, sesinya akan dalam bahasa Inggris, but Dr. Yeap Ban Har, you can speak in Malay, right? Jadi nanti sedikit bisa ya. Kalau ada pertanyaan bisa disampaikan dalam bahasa Indonesia, nanti kita akan menerjemahkan. Dan di sini ada terjemahannya ke bahasa Inggris buat Bapak Ibu yang memerlukan terjemahan dalam bahasa Indonesia. Baik Bapak Ibu, so we welcome Dr. Yeap Ban Har. Thank you for coming to our school. We are so happy to have you here. Okay.
Thank you very much. My name is Ban Har, and I'll do the session with you this morning. Currently, I'm working in two schools in Singapore. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Professional Development. One of the schools is in Singapore, Pathlight School. My voice is so loud I cannot hold the mic close to me. It'll be very, very loud. Because I was a classroom teacher, and classroom teachers always got loud voices because I started teaching a long time ago in 1990. So back then our class size is very big. We have 48 students in one class. So that's why our voice is quite loud, and we always do activities with students. It's not like giving a lecture like that where everyone is quiet. They are all talking, so sometimes you need to talk to them. You have to speak a little bit loud, but anyway, this is just my normal talking voice, and it's quite loud already. Yeah, so anyway, I work in two Singapore schools, one of which is in Singapore, the other one is actually in Thailand. So the one in Singapore is Pathlight School. It's a government school, and the other one is an international school, Anglo-Singapore International School. That one is in Thailand, in Bangkok, and another province outside Bangkok. There are 3 campuses. The one in Singapore, there are 2 campuses. Yeah? So I will speak in English, but when you ask question, it can be in Bahasa, because in Singapore, we understand a lot of languages, even though we cannot speak them, because, yeah, that's what it is in Singapore and Malaysia as well. We have so many different types of people. We probably pick up the languages along the way. Yeah? Today, I'm here to mostly answer your questions, but also to suggest to you how children learn mathematics. Yeah? So, that's our topic today, but I'm happy to answer any question you have. I will start by just sharing with you a little bit of data, so at least you know that whatever your children are learning is based on some research, is based on some learning theory. So this is Singapore today. It wasn't like that when I was born in the mid-60s. It wasn't like that in the 70s when I was in primary school. It was still not like that when I was in high school in the early 80s. And it wasn't like that when I finished university in the late 80s. And it wasn't like that when I started teaching in 1990. Yeah? So many of you do know that Singapore was actually part of Malaysia. Yeah, until 1965. It was the same country. Now here, I share with you something that a bunch of economists in Stanford found out. So these are Asian systems here. These are systems that do very well. In these systems, their average student is usually 1 year above expectation. In other words, their average learner is performing above what is expected by about 1 year. So in international studies, 500 means the students are okay. When they can reach 500 points, that means they learn what they're supposed to learn. And 40 points is equivalent to 1 year of learning. So in places like Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, in the early days, 1970s, 1980s, their average score is usually about 550. So remember, 500 means okay, and 40 points is 1 year of learning. So 550 means the average learner is 1 year above expectation. Whereas in Southeast Asia, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, our students did not do well. This second group, the average learners were usually around 450, 50 points below expectation, which is about 1 year below expectation. 40 points is 1 year of learning, yeah, so 500 is okay. But the average learners in Singapore, the Philippines, Thailand, in the early days, they did not do so well. They were 1 year below expectation. So if average learner is already 1 year below expectation, you can imagine. So unfortunately, you can see in Southeast Asia, we do not help our students, generally speaking. Yeah, this is national data. It doesn't refer to any particular school. It's referring to the education system as a whole. So the Singapore government decided to do a study in the 1980s. Because this will not do, yeah? I mean, for Singapore, this will not do because Singapore has no gold, Singapore has no timber, Singapore has no petroleum, Singapore has no natural resources. The only thing we have are people. Quite a lot of people in a small space. You probably know that. We have 6 million people in a tiny island. Yeah, one of the densely populated nations in the world. I think most dense populated countries in the world. So in 1980, the government decided to research. Yeah? I'm using it. I am using it. It's okay, right? Closer, yeah? So I must speak softer. Yeah, okay. So in the 1980s, the government decided to research what can we do to help students learn. And today I'll be sharing with you 3 to 5 things that can guarantee every student can learn. Every student can learn, and not just learn, can learn at a high level. So, fortunately, because of whatever they did in the 80s, by the 1990s, our students were able to join the first group of education system. So there are many education systems in Asia that do very well in mathematics. I wanted to show you the comparison between Singapore and Malaysia because these two used to be the same education system, identical. Even today, you cannot really tell someone is from Malaysia or Singapore from the accent. We have the same accent. Yeah, like you can tell a Thai person, you can tell an Indonesian when they speak, yeah? But you cannot tell, is the person Singaporean or Malaysian? Yeah, because when they speak English, the accent is almost identical. And we always fight whose food it is. Chili crab, Malaysia says it's ours, Singapore says it's ours. Nasi lemak, everyone says it's theirs. So, it's practically an identical culture, identical system. But you see such a big difference in performance in education. The average student in SMP second year, grade 8, second year of SMP, grade 8, the average learner is 600. Remember, 500 means okay. And 40 points is 1 year of learning. So the average learner in Singapore in secondary school is 2.5 years above expectation. So an SMP 2 student is performing like as almost like an SMR first year student. A grade 8 student is performing like a grade 10 student. 2.5 years above expectation. And these are the average learners. And then in Malaysia, the average learner is 410. Remember, 500 means okay, and 50 points is 1 year of learning. So the average learner is 90 points. That is 2 years, slightly more than 2 years.
below expectation. In other words, their SM pay student is performing like an SD 6 student. Such a big difference when they both started off identical. So up to 1980s, the score for Singapore and Malaysia were identical. These systems have always been doing well. South Korea, Japan, and Hong Kong. The rest of the numbers, this is for SD. Actually, this study includes about 70 different education systems. Here, I just show you some Asian systems. This is the most recent one from 2023. This from SD, grade 4. This from SMP, grade 8. The rest of the numbers are percentages. How many percent of SD 4 students can do calculation? So these are people who know their times table. They can do long division. They can add 3-digit numbers. Basically, they can calculate. Calculation is quite easy. So no wonder in many education systems, almost 100% of the students can do it after 4 years in school. They know their times table. They can do long division. However, in Malaysia, it's only 50%. Like, we lose half the students, not even in difficult things, just in doing basic calculation. Half the students in a system cannot do it. And Singapore used to be like that. And there are 3 reasons for this to happen. The first reason is emphasis on rote memorizing. So any school, any education that focuses on memorizing in mathematics, this is almost the guaranteed result. This has been proven time and time again. This study is done every 3 years. And time again, education system that focuses on memorizing, you will lose about half the students. The next category are students who can do simple problem solving. So these are people who can do problem solving, but the simple type, the straightforward kind. So no wonder, again, quite a lot of people can do it, more than 80%, sometimes more than 90%, because these are problem solving, which is just one step. Yeah? With technology, including AI, that can solve quite complex problems, solving one-step problem should not be an issue to a human being. Unfortunately, in Malaysia, only 22% can do it. These are one-step, simple problem solving. Yeah? The second reason why this is happening, the first reason is memorizing. The second reason is learning procedures that they do not understand. So whenever students learn procedures and they have no understanding why the procedure is like that, this will be the result. Very few students are able to do problem solving. The third reason for low performance is overemphasis on calculation. So education system that focus a lot on calculation, the irony is they cannot do calculation. It's a bit ironic. It's a bit surprising. They focus on calculation. They focus on learning formula. They focus on learning procedure. And then half of the students cannot do it. Yeah? So 3 things to be avoided. We already know from the research. If you want your children to learn well in mathematics, these are 3 things to be avoided. Rote memorizing. Yeah, just menghafal, yeah? Rote memorizing. The other one is learn the procedure, but do not understand why the procedure is like that. Just follow the steps, but have no understanding why the steps are like this. And the third one, too much emphasis on calculating. All they do is calculating and calculate and calculate. Yeah? And this will result in low performance. The next category are students who can do complex problem solving. So this is really what most education systems hope the students can do. Complex problem solving. So about 80% in Singapore, about quite close to 80% as well, more than 70% in many of the education system that perform quite well. But in places like Malaysia, only 7%. So imagine you lose most of the young people in complex problem solving. And the last category, these are students who can solve problems that is not taught to them. Yeah? So these are people who can do things that they did not learn in school. So the teachers did not teach them this kind of problems, and they can still do it. So not surprising, only 1% in Malaysia can do it because it's not taught in school. But look at some education systems. Actually, quite a lot of students can do things that is not taught to them. For example, in Singapore, it's about 50% in SD and about 45% in SMP. Like about half the students. So half of the students means some of them are very average. If you divide the student into 3 groups, the top group, top 33%, the average group, the next 33%, 50% will include average learners. In other words, average learners in some education system can do great things, meaning they can do things that is not taught to them. The other ability that they need to demonstrate to be able to be in this category is communication. They can explain their thinking. So not only can they solve the problems, they can also explain quite clearly how they solve the problem. So if they can communicate and they can solve unusual problems, they will fall here. Some people call this 21st century competencies. Students who demonstrate abilities that is valuable in the workplace. Yeah? Just to show you some data, how by doing certain things, we can affect how children learn. And today's session is mostly for us to look at what are some of these things that we can do. Of course, most of it will be done by the school, but I suppose you are here to find out how you can support your own children. Something that is quite encouraging for us to find out is this. Everyone, anyone, can do very well in mathematics. It is not just a hope. It is now proven. For example, in SD, the bottom 20% of the students, meaning these are your weaker student, the bottom 20%, yeah, the weaker student, they are weak for many reasons. Family background, financial, special needs, language issues, because in Singapore they learn everything in English, but it's not really a home language for some students. Actually, it's not a home language for any student, because we don't really speak English in Singapore. We speak Singlish. Yeah, so nobody have English as a home language, even if they speak English at home. They don't. They speak Singlish at home. But a lot of homes use Mandarin. Yeah, the Malay families will use Bahasa Melayu. Yeah, but some families do use English, but not really English, Singlish. So whatever the reason is, some students do not do well in school, the bottom 20%. But thankfully, even they can score 547. Bottom 20% average score is 547. Remember, 500 means they are okay. So they are definitely okay because they are above 500. And 40 points is 1 year of learning. Not only are they okay, they are quite advanced. Meaning these are SD 4 students who are performing like SD 5 students. So they are almost like advanced learners in many education systems. So this is the conclusive data to tell us that everyone, anyone can learn mathematics. When I was studying to be a teacher in the late 80s, we were still reading research that debates whether mathematical ability is nature, inborn, or nurture, opportunities. So even as recent as that, we were still debating, is it like some people just cannot do mathematics? Like, just cannot. And some people are just born gifted in mathematics. But that debate is now concluded. Today, we know for sure mathematical ability is only a little bit genetic and mostly opportunities. In other words, anyone, everyone, even the weaker students, when given the right opportunities, they can learn whatever they're supposed to learn. And in some cases, they even exceeded expectation. The SD 4 students by more than 1 year, and the SMP students by more than half a year. So not only are they able to learn, they have exceeded whatever they're supposed to learn. So this data gives us the assurance that there's no such thing, that some people just cannot do mathematics. Whenever students are not doing well in mathematics, usually it's because they have not been given the opportunities to learn. So today I'll be sharing with you some things that can guarantee student learning. Yeah, I will stop here a little while for you to ask questions. And then I will continue with some activities, some explanations, some examples, basically to help us understand how can we help children learn mathematics in a meaningful way and also probably in an enjoyable way. Some of you might know in Indonesia this year, the government has announced the deep learning curriculum. Maybe you have read that in the media. Yeah, the Minister of Education, middle of this year, says that Indonesia is going to emphasize on deep learning. And deep learning include meaningful learning, yeah, mindful learning, and joyful learning. So today, hopefully, we are going to leave this room knowing some ways to help students, children, with deep learning in mathematics. And all your children are now at the beginning of their learning journey. So it's probably good information to have when they are still at that stage of learning, because then there's a long runway for us, school as well as parents, to help those children perform really well. Yeah? But questions, if you have any questions you want to ask, I'll be happy to answer the questions.
Check. Okay. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
My question is based on the progression of Singaporeans scores, right? So, what curriculums Singaporeans have to use to make that happen? Is like uniform, like centralized curriculum, or is it just like a framework and then each school has its own implementation?
Thank you for the question. So the question is, what kind of curriculum Singapore uses? So in 1992, Singapore introduced the so-called problem-solving curriculum. So it was introduced in 1992. 1980s, they researched 10 years. 1992, they start to implement it. In Singapore, by law, every student must study in a government school. Like, you have no choice. Your parents can be really wealthy, but you have to suffer with everyone. No choice. It's a law for primary school. So 100% of Singaporean students, with a few small exceptions, they have to apply if they want to do anything other than government school, they need permission. By law, they must attend government school. So practically every single student would have gone through the same curriculum. So it's a centralized curriculum. It is quite detailed. It will say grade 1, what must they learn? Grade 2, what they need to learn. Yeah, every single year, what do they need to learn? But actually, it is not this curriculum, it is not that affect the students' learning. It is what the teachers do in classroom every single day that make a bigger difference. The actual curriculum itself, it can be anything. It can be Cambridge curriculum. It can be Indonesian curriculum. It can be a Japanese curriculum. It can be IB curriculum. It doesn't matter, especially for mathematics, because they are almost all the same. Because mathematics is mathematics. You go to grade 1 in any country, they are all adding. You go to like grade 2, grade 3, they are all doing times table. Yeah, you go to grade 6, grade 7, they all do algebra. So I think for mathematics, there's very little variation in the actual content. In the case of Singapore, the thing that makes a difference is every single day they do problem solving. Like every single day. Every single lesson, they do problem solving. This is the meaning of the problem solving curriculum. The second thing that makes a difference is what the teachers do with them in school. You probably already know, at Sedaya Bintang, they are using the same textbook that Singapore students uses. In other words, they do exactly the same content because they use Think Mathematics. And Think Mathematics is written based on the Singapore curriculum. Yeah? And the teachers, together with Pa Hua School, the sister school, have been trained to teach in the methods that I'm sharing with you today. Yeah? Anything else you would like to know? Yes, please.
So my question is, the children learn in different paces. Like, how do we, as parents, cope with if my child has a slower understanding, especially regarding to the new curriculum of the Singaporean? I think we going to have different understanding because in our years, it was emphasized to us that mathematical is kind of exact procedure. So. My question is only how do we cope if our children is lower in taking the understanding?
So I think, so the question is, what if my child is struggling a little bit with mathematics? Yeah. So the first answer is already answered. You are here today, so you're going to find out what to do. So that's settled. And for those parents not here, I suppose we have videos for them to watch when they need to watch it. Yeah. But you are here this morning, so you're going to find out. I'll be sharing with you 3 to 5 things that can help students learn mathematics. The second thing I want to say is, try your best. It's very difficult, but try your best not to think that your child is struggling. When we see our children taking long time to learn something, very often as adults we say, oh, he is struggling. Actually, they are not struggling. They are learning at their own pace. So this concept of my child is behind is because as adults, sometimes we are competitive. We are comparing this child to another child. Maybe the older brother, the older sister, the younger brother, the younger sister, neighbor's friend, cousin. Yeah? So this idea that my child is behind is actually our adult thinking. In terms of psychology, of learning, they are not really struggling. They are learning at their own pace. What is important is that by the end of the learning process, they have learned it. And today we are going to see what are the things we can do to help them. Yeah? So the answer will come in today's session. But the point I mentioned secondly is quite important. It's difficult to do, for sure. But try your best not to think that my child is behind, my child is struggling. Yeah, so whenever they take longer time to learn, they are learning, but they are learning at their own pace. And different people have different pace of learning. Some will start off very slow, then they will speed up later. Some speed up very fast, then they slow down. So different people have different learning curve, depending on their previous experience, depending also on their personality. Yeah. Anything else you would like to ask? Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. Maybe I want to give you the opposite question from the previous. How about my son is a little bit advanced in her age? What can I, as a parent, have to do?
Okay. So I think I'll use the first example. Yeah? Sometimes the children seem to learn very fast. What can we do? Yeah? Two answers in summary. The first answer is what we call accelerate. So they seem to be able to learn as day 1, you teach them as day 2. Then you teach them as day 3. You just accelerate. The other model is don't accelerate, enrich. And I will demonstrate what enrichment is. I think acceleration, you don't need any more explanation. It's very straightforward. If they can learn grade 1, you teach them grade 2. You let them do grade 3, grade 4. Let's keep on accelerating. The model I'll be explaining now, it's called enrichment. So because many of your children are still in kindergarten or grade 1, I will do a content from grade 1 and show you how a simple lesson in grade 1 can be challenging as well if your student, your child is quite advanced. So we have a problem, and the problem is to explain to our friends. Remember, the problem is never what's the answer. Yeah, the problem is how can we explain to people. So today our problem is how can we explain to people the total number of flowers in the 3 containers. So we have 3 containers. Anyone know containers that hold flower? What do we call them? A vase, a vase, a vase, depending on your pronunciation. And the bahasa Indonesia is. So these are containers that hold flowers. And in the first container, I see the following number of flowers. Yeah? So our problem today is to explain to our friends how we know the total number of flowers in the 3 containers. So the first container has so many flowers. The second container has so many flowers. Yeah? And the last container, the last vase, the last vase has so many flowers. Yeah? So our problem today is to find out how many flowers are there all together and to be able to explain it to other people. Remember, in our class, the problem is never what's the answer. The problem is always how can we explain it to other people. Think of ways to find the total number of flowers. So in this school, because the teachers are exposed to the methods that we know will help students learn, they will use concrete materials. So they use these things called 10 frames. I'm doing presentation, so it's on the iPad, but actually it's just a real thing. Yeah? It could be like 8 carton. It could be just a piece of cardboard looking like that. Yeah? Or it can be a plastic tray. Anything with 10 spaces is called a 10 frame. And then students will use counters. Students will use counters to show the number of flowers. I think that was in the first container. There were 7 flowers. Then the second container, I think there were 3 flowers. The last container, there are 2 flowers. Yeah? So children will use concrete materials. This is the first answer. How do we help everyone learn? Start with concrete materials. Start with concrete stories. Start with stories. Start with concrete material. This is based on a learning theory. Yeah? So a learning theory, Jerome Bruner, in the 1960s, gave us a very clear answer. How do you help people learn abstract concept? Not just mathematics, anything abstract. Sciences, any subject. How do you help people learn anything abstract? He say, in order to get to the abstract, A, abstract, you start with C, concrete. Concrete things, concrete stories, and then you go on to P, pictorial, pictures. So this is what the teachers will say, the CPA approach. Concrete, pictorial, abstract approach. So when your child is learning and seems to be not able to understand it completely, always go back to concrete. Find something at home that you can use. Even you don't have these plastic things that they use in school, doesn't matter. When I first started teaching, we don't have all these nice things as well. We just take a piece of paper and draw. Or go and get some egg carton. And mostly egg carton is 10 spaces. We don't have nice plastic counters. We use pebbles. We use tamarind seeds, the Assam seeds. We use beans. I hope you didn't think this is the snack, yeah? It's not, yeah? It's for one of the activity, a game we are going to play later. We use this, which are not really expensive, yeah? And can use for a very long time. And quite easy to handle for young children. Or anything, seashells, yeah? Anything. Right, anyway, the teacher will then say, okay, this is a problem. You have the concrete materials, and then the children will work among themselves for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The teacher does not teach straight away. The teacher just let them work with a friend, yeah, work with a partner, and they try to figure out, they explore, they try to figure out the total number. What do you think children in SD1 will say to explain how to find the total? What do you think they will do? Anyone want to just guess? Just imagine your child doing this SD1. How does your child, what will your child do to find the total? Huh? Oh, move it to one frame. So you're suggesting that maybe they might do this? Okay. So this is called making 10 in a textbook. Yeah? And this is an important idea. The idea of making 10 is very important. It's one of the things you want to make sure children learn at some point. Yeah? Making 10. So they will do this. They will say, 7 and 3 is 10. 10 and 2 is easy. So that's one method. What other methods do you think children might use? Other than making 10. How else would a SD1 student find the total? What do you think they will do? So they will find the total. What will they do? They will count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then they'll say, the total is 12. Counting. That's quite expected. I think almost everyone in the class in SD1 can do that. The making 10, not all of them will do that on their own. But with concrete materials, the percentage increased significantly. So we have done the research on this particular problem. It's a problem from the textbook the student used in this school. 7 plus 3 plus 2. So without the concrete materials, less student, fewer students can understand making 10. But the moment you give them the 10 frames and the counter, the proportion of students who make 10 increases almost double in our research. Secondly, when students are on their own versus when students are with their friends, when they learn with their friends, again, the proportion who can make 10 is much higher. So on their own, they might be just counting, but when you put them in pair, even those who started just counting, after a while, will figure out making 10. Thirdly, students who are being taught by the teacher, explaining, versus students who are left alone to explore. Students who explore, more of them demonstrate making 10 later when they do the testing. Whereas those who were explained, those the teacher explained to them, although they seem to understand making 10 in class, when we do the testing later, less students in that group were able to still remember about making 10. So we have 3 answers already, how to help every student learn. Concrete materials, let them explore. Don't explain straight away. Let them try first. Yeah? And thirdly, maybe you cannot do that at home, but in school they do that already, is working with friends. Because at home you probably have only like one child of that age group. Yeah, unless you got twins or triplets, yeah? So that's not so easy to do at home, but that's okay because in school they have that already. So for you as parents, if you're helping your child who seems to take more time, concrete material, and let them try first. Don't explain first. Let them try first, and then you can help them later. Yeah? Are there some other interesting ways? So this is now answering your question. What if my child is quite advanced? If they are quite advanced, they should be able to now tell you methods beyond counting and making 10. So anyone have any other ways to find out the total number? So the following methods are the one used by that group that you're talking about. Children who are quite advanced. Children who find basic things quite easy. They will be the one giving those methods. So counting, everyone will be able to do it. The challenge is how to get those who are just counting to also make 10. If they can make 10, that's good already. But what if my child is quite advanced? What should they be looking at? Any other methods? Anyone else have other ways? Any thoughts? Any other methods you think students will be using? These are first grade children in Florida doing a similar problem. Not this one yet. They were doing 6 plus 8, 8 plus 6. Yeah? Which is also a problem in us. They are doing the same textbook as the children in this school. So there's also Think Mathematics, US edition. So this school in Florida is using that book. And the problem is 8 plus 6. And you can see they do the making 10. Yeah? So because of the concrete materials and because they work with friends. So this is also quite common. If you come to Sedaya Bintang School, students learning like that should be common. Yeah? So what other ways you think to find 7, N3, N2? Any other ways? Anyone? How many methods do you think first graders can come up with for addition problem. They are doing 8 plus 6. We did 7 plus 3 plus 2. So the 7 plus 3 plus 2 lesson is after the 8 plus 6 lesson, obviously, because it's 2 numbers, then later 3 numbers. Yeah? But the techniques are similar. Counting, making 10, the basic ones. And then the high level ones. Yeah. Five methods. They came up with 5 methods without the teacher teaching. And I was a teacher in this case. So although I'm not a teacher now, I still go around the world, different parts of the world. In fact, I just came from Peru, and tomorrow I have to go to Serbia, and I do lessons like that as part of the teacher training. I was a teacher. So the problem is Spiky have 8 cupcakes, Curly have 6 cupcakes. Think of different ways to find out total number of cupcakes. Remember, the problem is not how many cupcakes. The problem is how can we explain the total number of cupcakes. Think of ways to find the total number of cupcakes. So they got 5 methods. I think the first method is the same as ours. So it came out very quickly because concrete materials, because working with friends, because they get to explore. This, if you like, are the 3 most basic ways anyone learn at a high level. Concrete materials, working with friends, and have a time to explore. That answers your first question. What if sometimes I see my child is having a hard time learning something? I think many parents' response is, I explain to you. Don't do that. Instead, go and find some concrete things. Say, okay, why don't we use the concrete things? Yeah. And let them explore first. Yeah. So you see, they talk about making 10. What else did they talk about? They say, okay. They say, yeah, 8 and 6 is also 9 and 5. Yeah? So here they demonstrate an ability that is needed in secondary school. Yeah? Meaning they understand the notion of equivalence. The concept of equivalent. Like this and that is equivalent. If I move 1 over, we become 9 and 5. So this demonstrates that those children are quite flexible with their numbers. They can see, oh, this and that is the same amount as this and that. Because I move 1 over. I move 1 flower over. I move 1 cupcake over. Method 3. Double. They'll say, I can make doubles. Now, in our problem, 7, 3, and 2. Advanced learners will say, I can make 3 vases, all have the same flowers, same number of flowers. Now it's 7, 3, and 2. Not the same. I rearrange the flowers. I make like 4, 4, and 4. That is multiplication. They can see addition as multiplication. So if your child is quite advanced, this is what we mean by enrichment. We still keep them with the same problem, which is quite easy for them. They will know 7 plus 3 plus 2 is 12. They know because they're so advanced. But if they're truly advanced, they can also say 7, 3, and 2 is 3 fours. 3 group of 4s. Like here, they can say 8 and 6 is 2 sevens. So this is multiplication. Even if they do not know the multiplication symbol yet, they already have the concept of multiplication. Some students in our problem will say 7, 3, and 2. I can make 2 6s. I can take all the flower out, make 1 bouquet, 6 flower, another bouquet, 6 flower. Also multiplication. Some will say I can make 4 bouquet of flowers. 3 flowers, 3 flowers, 3 flowers, 3 flowers. So if your child is advanced, they will see multiplication even when they are doing addition. So that's an example of enrichment. You don't give them a harder problem. You give them a simple problem. But because they're advanced, they will use their advanced lens and they can see multiplication. Right? You might be curious what else they do. Of course, they did counting. They also say, oh, I could just turn it around. So, yeah. Now, what if your child is truly gifted? So, if your child is advanced by maybe a year or two, the multiplication will take care of it. Yeah? So, there's nothing extra you need to do. Just give the child time and space. And you may suggest to them things like, oh, I wonder if I can make all the container have the same number of flowers. If they don't see it, you can ask them that. And if they're truly advanced, they will then be able to make use of that hint. But the best case is you don't say anything. And then they themselves say, oh, I can make them into 4, 4, and 4, 3 fours. I can make this into 2 bouquets of flower, 6 and 6, and so on. This is a problem from the textbook your children are using. I'm in charge of this textbook. I'm the author and consultant for this textbook. And this problem was researched. Every problem in the book was researched in this project that we call 100 Classroom Research. We took this problem to 100 classrooms around the world, taught by their own teachers. And then the teachers tell us how their children solve it. Then we make some adjustment if it's necessary. In the 100 classroom, in 3 classrooms, the following thing happened. Some of you know more mathematics. These 3 numbers are quite special. What kind of numbers are these? Prime numbers. Okay, you don't expect SD1 students to say prime numbers. You really don't. You'll be surprised when SD1 students say prime numbers. But in 3 classrooms of the 100, a student will say prime numbers. For some reason, they know about prime numbers. So these are what we might call the gifted learners who have been exposed to more mathematics and then can make sense of it. Right. So if the child knows these are prime numbers, then as adult, I can say this to the child. Oh, how interesting. You know prime numbers. So 12, I can write as a total of 3 prime numbers. I'm just wondering. I wonder if bigger numbers can also be written as a sum of 3 prime numbers. Not sure. Like, other whole numbers. You can go as high as you want. I just wonder whether whole numbers, other whole numbers, I can also write them as 3 prime numbers. And what about smaller numbers? I wonder if we can write them as 3 prime numbers. Oh, they don't have to be all different. It can be like the same. Yeah? So, I wonder. Not sure. Why don't you go and research? Take as much time as you want. Why don't you research whether it is actually possible or not? This problem was proposed in 17-something. It wasn't solved, wasn't proven until like 20 years ago. So it is not a simple problem. But first graders, the advanced one, the gifted ones, can be given a chance. Probably not able to prove it, but at least to play around with it. Yeah? If you're interested and you have a first grader who is quite gifted, this is called the Goldbach conjecture. Yeah, Goldbach conjecture got something to do with total of prime numbers. Yeah? So this is to answer your question. What if I have a child who is quite advanced? You can either accelerate them, or you don't accelerate them. You try to enrich their learning. Yeah? You try to enrich their learning. Any problem in your child textbook can be enriched in the way I just described to you. Yeah? So those are the two possibilities. Yeah? The reason why this problem can be enriched is because we have chosen numbers carefully. So we have chosen prime numbers to allow this to happen. You don't really expect this to happen for first graders. But more importantly, we choose the total to be 12. Because 12 has many factors. So this will allow the advanced learners to think about multiplication. Yeah. We also choose 7 and 3 to allow the beginners to be able to see making 10 very quickly. Yeah. Any other question you have? So I have shared with you 3 ways to help everyone learn. And then I have also answered your question. What if my child seems a bit advanced? What can I do? 2 ways, accelerate or enrich. Accelerate, I think, needs no explanation, and I just show you what we mean by enrichment. Yeah. Anything else you would like to ask? Any other questions you might have?
Ada yang mau bertanya, Bapak Ibu? Sudah cukup? Cukup dulu? Okay, maybe enough for a while, sir.
So, one important idea is making 10. Yeah? Making 10. I think I'm also in the process of answering the first question. If your child seems to have difficulty, focus on the most important parts of mathematics. And today I'll be sharing with you the most important parts in the early grades. Making 10 is one of them. Yeah? So in future, when your child is doing things like that, you're hoping that they will say things like, well, I can move 1 over. And that give me 20 and 28. And 20 and 28 is so easy. 28, 38, 48. Or some of them might say 19 and 29. I move 1 over. I move 1 over here. So this is the same as 18 and 30. Oh, 18 and 30 is easy. 18, 28, 38, 48. Or some of them will say 19 and 29. Oh, I noticed that 19 is close to 20 and 29 is close to 30. I see this, I think of 20. I see that, I think of 30. And 20 and 30 is so easy for me. I know that's 50. So my answer should be 1 less, 2 less. My answer should be 2 less than 50, and that should be 48. Yeah? So the idea of making 10 is very important. Make sure your child is quite fluent with making 10. So when they do things like 8 plus 9, they will say, oh, this is like 7 and 10. That's what you want to hear your children say, rather than counting on the fingers. Yeah? If they're counting on the fingers, please give them the 10 frames. Once you give them the 10 frames, they will no longer be counting everything. Yeah? They'll be doing the making 10. So making 10 is important. Focus on making 10. Anything else you would like to know? All right? If not, maybe we take a little break by playing a game, a simple game. Kindergarten kids can play it. First grader can play it. 7th graders, 9th graders can play it. So this is a game that doesn't have any age limitation. The game is this. Yeah, it's called take one, take two. The game will start with any number of beans. But you know the number. Whatever number you want, you should know it. Yeah? So the game can start with any number of beans. But you must know, both of you must know how many beans is involved. You can pick your own number, up to you. Yeah? So long both, it's a game for two players, yeah? So long both you and your friend know how many beans there are. The rule is, take one, take two. You can take one or two. Can you say, no, I don't want to take any. Pass. Cannot. You must take one or take two whenever it's your turn. And then it's your friend's turn. Can she say, I want to take three? No, she cannot. Take one or take two. So that's the only rule. You start with number of beans that you know. In this case, we know there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 beans. Can be any number. But both players must know how many beans are involved. And then you decide whoever start. Leave it up to you, yeah? How you want to decide how you want to start. But whatever it is, you take turns. If you start, then your friend is next. Then come back to you. And then next. And goes like that. And every time it's your turn, take one, take two. That's it. The winner is the one who can take the last beans. So you can clear the table, you win the game. That's how you win the game. You take the last beans. Either the last one or the last two, whatever. If you can take the last beans, you win that round. All right? It's okay? Why don't you play with people around you? If you, make friends with other parents if you do not have friends yet here. All right? 2 persons play the game. I leave you alone for a while, yeah? Secret to always win? You think you found a secret to always win? Yeah. So actually it's a very basic skill, just counting. Anyone who can count 1 or 2 can play this game. Very basic. So kindergarten students can play this game. The thing about game is you want to play it all the time. Yeah? So in many schools, they use games. So every day they will spend 5-10 minutes just playing the same game over and over again. So this is something you can do at home as well. I think you do that. You probably have some favorite games at home. Could be Scrabble, could be Monopoly, could be 5 stones, could be chongka, could be anything. Yeah? So I think games is quite important. That's my second point. As parents, you don't always need to duplicate what they are already doing in school. You can actually do other things, and they will always be relevant. Games is always relevant, especially physical games. Games that involve not just the iPad, yeah? Although some iPad games are also useful, but simple things like 5 stones, chongka. As a child, I played chongka all the time with my 2 younger sisters and my mom, all the time. And I suspect that also helped me develop some mathematical competency, because chongka, you need to be able to strategize how to maximize the number of asam seeds or marbles into your home, whatever you call that, right? So games is always useful. Any games is useful. Lego, yeah? Anything, any game. So this is another game. It's a very simple game. It just happened to be one game that I used to use when I was a classroom teacher. Like every morning in primary school, I started my professional life teaching the older students, grade 11 and 12. Then later I went to teach in primary school. And in secondary school, we teach the subject, then we leave the room, yeah? But primary school, you teach them the whole day. Yeah? So it's like they come to you and they spend the whole day with you. Yeah? So I usually start the morning when they come to class with a little game, just to settle them down, to calm them down, They come in, they put their bags, and then they grab the game, find a friend. So I always tell them, try to find different friends. Every day, try to find someone new to play with. So because they play the game all the time, they know the rules. No need to explain it anymore. They just play. Yeah? Very simple game. Yeah? As day 1, as day 6, they all can play this game. So is there a secret to always win the game? You think you have a secret? What's your secret? For sure you win already. So his strategy is, whatever he does, he wants to give you, the opponent, 3 beans. He'll do whatever he wants to do. But at the end of it, he just wants to make sure 3 beans is left to you. That's all he wants to do. So that's his strategy. Whatever happened, at the end, I want to give you 3 beans. Is that right? Yeah. So once your opponent gets 3 beans, there's no way out anymore, right? Because if she takes 1, you win. You take 2, right? If she takes 2, you also win. So that's one strategy. Anyone else have other strategies you think? Yes, please. Multiple of 3, meaning like 6, 9, whatever, yeah? So you are saying that in this case, 7, if you get a chance to start, let's say you're starting, right? You won the game already. Is it right? Oh, so you're saying if you are starting and there's 7, you won the game already. Because you're giving your friends, your opponent, a multiple of 3. Class, do you think that's true? The moment your opponent get multiple of 3, like 6, nothing she can do to beat you anymore. Is that right? So there's no more way she could give you back 3 from here. No more way. Is it right? Can she ever give you back 3? How? So now it's her turn, right? You give her multiple of 3, right? So what should she do? What should she do? Should she take 1? She should take 2. Okay, she take 2. So she takes 2. That means she give you back 4. Did you win? You won. Because you're going to take 1 to give her back 3. Could she have won by taking 1? Maybe she took 1, not 2. Also cannot. So in other words, you are saying that if there are 6, you give her 6. No way. She take 1, you take 2. Give her back 3. She takes 2, you take 1, you give back 3. So your friend is suggesting, I'm not sure whether it's true or not, but they are suggesting the moment you give your opponent 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, multiples of 3, you have won the game. Okay? Anyone else have other suggestions? I'm not sure. I'm just sharing with you what they share, right? So you can, if you don't believe them. So it seems like many of you believe all the 3. So most of you were very certain. The first strategy is confirmed. A winning strategy. Give your opponent 3. The second strategy, some of you are very sure of yourself. Some of you are still thinking, is it true? Is it true? We check for 3, we check for 6. I'm not sure. You can, yeah. Anyone else have other winning strategies? Or anyone want to explain a bit more? Why multiple of 3? If you give to your opponent. So multiple of 3 is a bad number to get. If that is true, yeah? So we call that a bad number. Bad number means you get it, you lose already. So the moment you get multiple of 3, you're going to lose already. Anyone want to explain a bit more why multiple of 3 is such a bad number? We understand 3 is a bad number already. 6 is a bad number. But will it continue? Why would multiple of 3 is such a bad number that whenever you receive it, that's the end. You're going to lose the game no matter what you do. So if this is a lesson in class, I will tell my students, boys and girls, we now have two secrets to win the game. The first secret, give your opponent 3. Second secret, give your opponent multiples of 3. Now we are going to write in our notebook. In mathematics, we call the notebook with a fanciful name, Maths Journal. Yeah, so they have a little notebook called a journal. In your journal, say whether you believe strategy 1 or strategy 2. Secret 1 or secret 2. And explain why the secret works. When you write, you can use words, you can draw pictures, you can even show calculations. Yeah? So this is something that schools do, letting students write in their maths journal. Yeah? Anyway, anyone else want to talk more about this? I'm just sharing the next idea, which is games. Games is something parents can do at home. So as parents, there are 2 approaches you can use. You can do both also. One is you support your child following what the school is doing. Like 7 plus 3 plus 2. They learn in school. At home, you do similar things. The second approach is you leave the school work to the school. Then at home, you do things like playing games. Yeah? Both approaches, from what I know from parents, they are okay. Yeah, either one is okay. Anything else you want to ask? Maybe I show you some photographs of students' journal. So this way of learning that I'm describing to you is very common around the world now. Yeah? Students working with friends, students exploring a problem. The teacher doesn't start by teaching. That one is grade 6, grade 7 in America. This also in the US, grade 3. The teachers start by giving them the problem. In this case, it's a word problem. And then they sit around and they talk. And the teacher doesn't start by teaching. It's always by exploring. This is based on a learning theory as well. We do not start by teaching. We start by letting students explore. Yeah? So these are students writing in their notebook, writing journals. Yeah? So they explain whatever they are supposed to explain. The teacher will tell them what to do, and then they write whatever they are supposed to write. So you notice a lot of words. A misconception is that mathematics does not need words. You do. It is the words that make you understand. Because symbols is very hard for human brain to understand. It is the spoken words. It doesn't matter what the language is. Yeah? Of course, in school, they might use English or Bahasa Indonesia. Yeah? But it actually doesn't matter. As long as they use a language, not just symbols. Yeah? Language is the bridge to understanding the symbols. So here the students are discussing, even as they write in their notes. So students working together is important. So this morning I've shared with you, if you like, the 3 ways where people learn. Learn with friends, learn with concrete things, learn through exploration. Yeah? Those 3 things will almost guarantee, especially those who find mathematics difficult, to learn mathematics. Talking is important. Mathematics cannot be learned in silence. So students' journal. This is, I don't know why, but American kids' handwriting are horrible. Yeah, I noticed that. I go different parts of the world. For some reason, American kids don't write properly. I'm not sure why. There must be a reason. It's something they do in school or they do not do in school. But their writing is, yeah, anyway. So, but never mind the writing, they are still trying to explain themselves. So maths journal is the last thing I was talking to you about. Actually, you can do this at home as well. Just get a notebook and let your child do different types of writing. The easiest kind of writing you can do at home is write a story for. Today you learn addition 8 plus 6. Can you write a story for 8 plus 6? But when I say write a story, you can also draw comics, draw pictures. That's also called writing a story. That's the easiest one you can do at home. Write a story. Yeah? Another thing you can do at home is one thing you are excited about in school today. Say, oh, what were you excited about? Can you tell me? Can you write in your journal? You can draw. You can write. So it's not just maths. It can be maths. So if I'm a maths teacher, it can be one thing that was exciting for you today. Yeah. Of course, there are some things that's not exciting, but one thing that's exciting for you today. So this is grade 2. These are my students in the Thai school. Yeah. Second graders. Working with friends. Working with concrete things. Exploring. The same 3 things. Yeah? The teacher doesn't bother them. They learn at their own pace at this time. 10 minutes. Not very long really. But talking to friends. How to figure out. How to do, in this case, I think addition or subtraction. I think it's subtraction. And then addition. And then later, they record their ideas on the vertical boards. So I think in this school, you do have vertical boards as well. something like that, yeah? But I think in class it's much bigger than that. It's like this one. So this school have that, yeah, as well. So they write their own ideas, but they're still like together in one group. Yeah. So this is quite common, yeah? These are my students in a Thai school, Anglo-Singapore. In fact, teachers, educators from Sedaya Bintang, together with Ban Har School, have visited the school. Was it last year? Or earlier this year, in March. Yeah, they went there for a course on how to organize physical space to promote learning. So it's quite rare actually for a school in Indonesia to have this kind of opportunities. I think the Sedaya Bintang together with Ban Har, they place a great emphasis on developing the teachers because they want to make sure the children in the school get the best way of learning. Not just by reading, yeah, but also by looking at what is happening in reality. Because seeing is believing. Sometimes no matter how much we do in a professional development course, just you see something, straight away you understand it. So seeing is believing. So yeah, that's common. They gather in front. So it's not just learning mathematics. It's also learning a lot of social skills. Self-management, young children, they still need to learn how to regulate their behaviors. So this is where they learn, yeah? So the teachers are also teaching them some of these things. These are the younger ones, our kindergarteners. So they all know, whenever we are here, we share ideas. We listen to friends. Simple rules like that. Whenever we are at our table, our desk, it's independent work. We do our things independently. Whenever I'm having a hard time, whenever I have difficulties, sometimes I cannot do my maths. Sometimes I'm just having a hard time. I feel like I'm tired or whatever. So whenever I have a hard time, I go to the pumpkin. So in my school, one of our emphasis, which this school is also doing, is the use of physical space to help children regulate behavior. Yeah, so we have one space, you have difficulty, you go to the pumpkin. So when you have difficulty, you don't raise your hand and ask the teacher to come to you. You go to the pumpkin. And then the teacher sees you there, the teacher might help you. Sometimes your friend, your classmate who finished the work fast sees you there. And they're kind, so they go to you. So the teacher will tell the students, if you have a hard time, go to the pumpkin. If you are fast and you see someone in a pumpkin, you should be kind and go to the pumpkin and ask your friend, may I help you? Yeah, so that's something the teachers teach them as well. Yeah? And then the fourth space they have is when I'm too tired. Sometimes when they do whatever they do, they get too tired. So if they get tired, they go to the yellow area. So in this class, they got 4 areas. A place where I listen and talk, share ideas. A space where I do my individual work, the table. A space where I go when I'm too tired, I need a rest, or I want to chat with my friends. And a space where I go to, the pumpkin, whenever I have difficulties. So my next point is this. I know you're here to listen to mathematics, but actually there's something that's quite important beyond mathematics, and that is all these things we talk about. Yeah? So do not forget, these are things that will allow your children to learn well. Teach them whatever you do. Different adults have different ways of teaching children. I'm sharing with you how a teacher use a simple strategy like that to help the 24, 28 children regulate their behavior, because they're still quite small, yeah? I think this is 4-year-old group, 4 or 5, I forgot now, yeah? That's when they are in front, sharing ideas, right? So as we finish things up, I'll show you another journal. So the write a story journal. So this is first grade, grade 1. Write a story for 48 plus 26. Because they learn this by the end of grade 1, yeah? Yeah. Tom bought 48 erasers and his friend gave him 26 erasers. Find the different ways to get the total number of erasers he has. So this is the easiest thing you can do with a journal. Write a story. Yeah, write a story. Oh, today you learn subtraction. Write a story for 20 minus 7. Yeah. Oh, and in future. Oh, you're learning times table. Write a story for 3 times 4. Oh, you're doing long division. Write a story for 51 divided by 3. Write a story. Yeah. Or another one you can do is something that's exciting. Or you can do the one we just did. We have two secrets. Which one you prefer? We have 2 ways of solving a problem. Which one you prefer? We added by counting. We added 7 plus 3 plus 2 by counting. We also added by making 10. Which one do you prefer? So it's something that quite easy to do. Yeah. Any parents can do this. So having a journal is also quite useful. Yeah. All right. Any questions you want to ask? I'm just showing you some more photographs. These are the first grader. So they know. Table, independent work. I'm supposed to do whatever I do. So they're writing their journal, right? Any other final questions you might have about your child learning mathematics? Yes, please.
Yeah, doctor, this is from my experience when I was a student in junior school. I'm in 90s generation. In my generation, every student must memorizing multiplication from 1 multiplication to 10 multiplication. It's related to memorizing. Some of my friends still have to memorizing multiplication even if they didn't understand the concept between 7 multiple with 5 gitu, but they still have to memorize it. Is it necessary? Is it a basic skill as a junior student to memorizing multiplication?
Yeah, important question. Not yet relevant now because your children are not yet learning times table, but they will, I think, in grade 2 and grade 3. Grade 2, your children will learn 2, 5, and 10 times table in the first half of the year, 3 and 4 times table in second half of the year. And then in grade 3, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So times table will happen in grade 2 and 3. Your question is, must they memorize? Short answer is no. Yeah? But they must remember. They must know. At the end of the process, you must remember. You must remember. And this is the theory on how we remember. Okay, so your question is, must we memorize to remember? So remembering and memorizing are 2 different things, yeah? Remember is what you can do. Memorizing is to help you remember. So memorizing is the way to help you remember. But luckily, it's not the only way. For example, all of you have children, yeah? I'm quite sure you remember their names. Of course you do. So the day your child was born, you and your spouse wrote the name on a piece of paper. And then you hafal the name, yeah? Okay, spouse, our son's name is Jonathan. Let's say it 100 times. No, you didn't do that, yeah? You didn't do that. And you didn't test your spouse every day before work. Okay, before you go to work, do you still remember our son's name? No, you don't do that, yeah? You don't. But yet you remember. for sure you can remember without having to memorize, because you didn't memorize your children's name, but yet you remember them. You didn't memorize your colleagues' faces, yet you can recognize them wherever you meet them. Yeah, for sure, yeah? So clearly, we do not need to memorize to remember. How will your children learn times table? They will learn 3 things. So every single topic in mathematics your children learn, there's only 1, 2, or 3 important things. For example, for addition, there's only 1 important thing, making 10. That's the most important thing. Make sure they master that, yeah? For times table, they will learn 3 things. For example, they may not remember 9 groups of 7. I mean, if you can remember, it's good. But let's say you do not remember this. Then you ask a child, what do you know? What do you know? How many groups of 7 do you know? Most of the time they will say 10, yeah? So that is why 2, 5, and 10 is taught first. Because 2, 5, and 10, very easy for people to remember, also very easy for you to figure out, even if you don't remember. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Very quickly, you will know what it is. So if you know 10 groups, to find 9 groups, you just take away 1 group of 7. So, I don't remember, but I know it's 70, take away 7, 63. So in about like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, the child will figure out. That's the first thing. 1 thing they learn. The second thing they learn is this. I need to do 7 groups of 8. I forget. I don't remember it. But that's okay, because I know 5 groups of 8. I know about 5 groups. I know about 2 groups of 8, because 2 and 5 quite easy for me. So if I got 5 groups, I got 2 groups, I got 7 groups. So I got 7 groups. Just add these 2 together. Oh, in this case, quite easy to add. 56. Second strategy. So they learn how to use adding. They learn how to use subtracting to learn their times table. This is a second step. It's called reasoning. So you remember better if you reason than if you memorize. So reasoning make your brain a better brain, because reasoning is a high-level process. Memorizing is low-level. So people who do memorizing is not building their brain muscles. People who do reasoning all the time is building their brain muscles. So try to maximize the exercise for the brain. Memorizing is low-level. The brain doesn't change very much when you do memorizing. But if you do reasoning instead of memorizing, then your brain is getting plenty of exercises. The third thing they learn, I need to do 8 groups of 6. I don't remember. But maybe I can use 4 groups. Because if I know 4 groups, I double it, I get 8 groups. But let's say I do not remember 4 groups, I remember 2 groups. 2 groups always very easy. So if I know 2 groups, I double. I double, I get 4 groups. And 4 groups I double, I get 8 groups. So these are the 3 things your children learn. Using adding, using doubling, and using subtracting. Yeah? So this is how they learn their times table. So when the time comes, the textbook your children use will have many lessons on these 3 things. So when you look at their textbook, you will notice, they are using this strategy. Yeah? But the very beginning of it, they do counting. So when they first start to learn times table, they will count. They'll say, 2 groups of 3. So they will use concrete material as usual, use cups, use beans, 2 groups of 3. And then how do they know the answer? They count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they know 2 times 3 is 6. And after a while, they stop counting one by one. They do this thing called skip counting. So they 3, 6, 9, 12, skip counting. So your children will start by counting, but they must graduate to reasoning. So this is quite important to help you remember. So almost nothing in mathematics require memorizing. I think this is a classic example that probably all of us in this room had to memorize at some point in time. Of course, I went to school a long time ago, so different time period. But when I went to school, my 3rd grade teacher always start a maths lesson with a test, a times table test. Like every single maths lesson, he will say 10 questions. He will go like 2 times 6, 4 times 5, 9 times 7. He'll just say like that very quickly. Then we're supposed to write down the answer. Yeah? And then, he has a ruler. He will hit you the number of times you get wrong on the palm. So all the boys, it was a boys' school, all the boys who didn't get perfect score will line up. It's practically the whole class, 50 of us. So you can imagine we never learn anything. Because 10 minutes for test, the rest of the hour for hitting our palm. Because it takes time to hit 50 students. Of course, the smart one only get hit 1 time because they only make 1 mistake. I always get hit 9 times. Every single day, I get hit 9 times. Because a teacher will say 9 times 7. That's 9 times 7. Oh, that's like 9 times 5. That's 45. Then 9 times 2. That's 18. 45 plus 18. It's like 45 plus 15 plus 3. 45 plus 15, that's 60. 60 plus 3, 63. And I write down 63. And that's it. Because I do not know the rest of the question. So I never heard the rest of the question. Because by the time I finished thinking about question 1, which took me about like 30 seconds, he has finished reading the question. I always get 1 correct. Always. I think that made me better in maths than all my other friends. Because they were memorizing. And I, for some reason, didn't have the motivation to memorize. Plus, my parents did not really push me to do it. All they say is, oh, good for you. You got hit 9 times. That's all they said. They didn't say, oh, you better do better next time. They never said anything like that. So I continued doing that. And it doesn't matter. It was a different time, yeah. These days, of course, we don't hit students anymore. But this is in the 70s. Yeah, we do strange things. Any final question you have before we end? If not, I just want to finish by telling you one last thing. In grade 1 at kindergarten, I mentioned to you making 10 is very important. Especially at grade 1. Yeah, make sure your children are quite good, quite fluent, and make use of making 10 all the time. If anything, that's one thing. Yeah? The other thing for kindergarten and grade 1 that's important is this thing that teachers call number bonds. Yeah? 5 is 1 and 5 is 2 and 3. 5 is 4 and 1. 5 is 1 and 4. So number bonds, 5 is 1 and 4, 5 is 3 and 2, 5 is 2 and 3, 5 is 0 and 5, number bonds. Yeah? So that's the other thing that your children should be quite good at, breaking numbers apart, number bonds. What will happen in the future is that, for example, they need to do 51 divided by 3. Then they will say, okay, quite hard for me, but that's okay. 30 is easy. 30 divided by 3, I know is 10. And then the rest of it is 21. 21 divided by 3 is also easy for me. That's 7. So 7 and 10 and 7. Answer is 17. So this number bonds, breaking number apart. Yeah? So that's a second thing that is quite useful to master at kindergarten and first grade level. Kindergarten, they do small numbers. Yeah, then grade 1, they do 2-digit numbers. And then in grade 2, grade 3 onwards, they will be making use of this to do a lot of calculating. Yeah. Any final things you would like to ask? Any final questions? So this morning, I share with you something you can do connected to school, but also something you can do that is not connected to school. Games, yeah? We talk about how to help students who seems to be slower, although I did say, try not to think of it that way. 3 things: concrete materials, exploring, and then in school with friends, yeah? And then if your child is quite advanced, accelerate, but in my opinion, enrichment is better. Yeah, enrichment is better. But you can do accelerating, it's nothing wrong, but I think in a world dominated by technology, it's quite pointless to keep on chasing more content. It's better to use simple things to make them think at a high level. Yeah? Finally, if you want your child to be good in mathematics, focus on the following things. Whatever you do at home, if you contribute to visualization, like drawing, playing games. By the way, playing physical movement develop your brain for mathematics. So you want your child to be good in maths, make them run around, make them play sports. It's not sitting down and do more worksheet. It's not sending them to Kumon. I hope Kumon doesn't come after me. But but that is what we know. Yeah, brain development, especially connected to mathematics, require physical movement because it will develop visualization. Help your child be good at patterns, looking at patterns, being able to spot patterns. Like just now you notice multiples of 3. That's a pattern, right? After you play the games, you realize, multiples of 3. That's patterning, yeah? Help your child with metacognition. Metacognition is managing complex processes, meaning leave them alone for 10 minutes and they know exactly what to do. Meaning they should not be guided so closely. If they are guided very closely, they lose metacognition. Metacognition is a brain function to allow us to do a complex process. And that only can happen when you leave children alone for a while. Meaning exploration, yeah? Number sense. The one I was talking about a while ago. So you know why you break into 30. It's not a random choice. So when you know it's 30 and 21, it's number sense. When you see 7 and 3, you want to make 10, that's number sense. Yeah? And finally, communication. The maths journal that I talked about, right? So this is what we know. These are the basic building blocks to mathematical ability. And anyone, everyone can develop this. None of this is inborn. None of this can be passed through genetic materials. None of this. That is why mathematical ability is only a small part genetic and largely opportunity. Any child who get a chance to develop these 5 things using the activities I share with you today will have a good chance to perform at a very high level. Yeah? So I will stop here. If you still want to ask questions, I'm still free for a little while before I meet the teachers, but otherwise I'll hand over the time to you. Yeah?
Thank you, Dr. Yeap Ban Har. Can we give a round of applause? So thank you for the meaningful insight for parents and also for teachers later on. As parents, we are equipped, right, with some ways how to support our kids at home. Sebagai orang tua, kita beberapa hari ini dapat insight banyak ya, bagaimana support anak kita belajar matematika. Tidak hanya belajar matematika sebenarnya ya, subjek lain di rumah. Bapak Ibu, sesudah selesai nanti sesi ini, Nanti guru-guru bersama Dr. Yeap Ban Har juga akan ada sesi khusus memperlengkapi kami supaya kami makin deep learning, menerapkan deep learning yang tadi sudah disebutkan juga, mindful, meaningful, dan joyful. Oke, saya ada map, boleh ditunjukkan? Jadi tadi Dr. Yeap Ban Har bilang mau ke Serbia. You are going to Serbia, right, sir?
Yeah.
So how many countries have you visited? Maybe it's easier to count the country that you haven't visited, right? Sudah kebanyakan. Ya, ya. Serbia ya, siapa yang kepikiran ke Serbia? Nah, this is what we have, Dr. Yeap Ban Har. So we always present this one to the parents. Now I think we need to add more countries here ya. Jadi Dr. Yeap Ban Har ini sangat terkenal di seluruh dunia ya. But we haven't put there Serbia, I think. Oke. So nanti kita harus ganti slide ya. Nah ini menunjukkan bagaimana apa metodologi gitu ya, approach pendekatan dari Yeap Ban Har itu juga sudah diimplementasikan di berbagai negara. Dan kita beruntung nih Sedaya Bintang dan juga Pak Hoa, tidak hanya dikunjungi, kita juga menggunakan bukunya dan Dr. Yeap Ban Har itu bersama kita, mendampingi guru-guru juga dalam berbagai pelatihan. Oke, sekali lagi thank you so much Dr. Yeap Ban Har for coming to Sedaya Bintang. Oke. Nanti kita boleh foto ya, kapan lagi foto sama Dr. Yeap Ban Har ya kan? Karena baru 2 sekolah yang beruntung di Indonesia loh, ada sesi khusus orang tua dengan Dr. Yeap Ban Har ya kan? Hari ini kita foto. Hari ini juga Bapak Ibu kami meminta kesediaannya menulis feedback nanti di post-it. Nanti ada di luar, Bapak Ibu menyampaikan apa insight atau any kind comments gitu ya, feedback untuk sesi hari ini. Nanti boleh diisi di luar ya Bapak Ibu. Oke. Terima kasih, kita akan mengakhiri dengan doa juga. Bapak Ibu dipersilahkan untuk berdoa sesuai dengan agama masing-masing. Mari kita berdoa. Berdoa selesai. Oke, Dr. Yeap Ban Har, can we take photos here? Oke, Bapak Ibu kita maybe this way. Bapak Ibu boleh berdiri, kita foto bareng ya. Berdiri ya, oh sit down boleh, yang baris pertama boleh duduk supaya kelihatan. We need someone to take photos. Pak Teddy boleh, Pak Hendy. Ah, sure sir, you may sit next to the professor. Boleh berbaris. Okay, maybe this way. Terima kasih Ibu Jane, would you mind to take photo? Bu Aida, boleh ke depan Bu, mungkin sini. Oke, nanti saya kirim. Oke, kita foto. We'll sit here. Bu Betty mau duduk di sini Bu? Oke, kelihatan kah? Beda. Oke, senyum Bapak Ibu. Say cheese. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu. Oke, boleh sambil menikmati snacknya ya Bapak Ibu. Terima kasih untuk kehadirannya. Sangat senang dengan support ya kehadiran Bapak Ibu. Ditunggu juga kehadirannya di acara-acara kita ke depannya. Oke, Bapak Ibu boleh mengisi post-it. Boleh ditaruh, dikasih post-itnya teachers. Could you mind to distribute the post-it? Boleh ya. Terima kasih. Ada yang mau boleh. Silahkan, boleh 2, boleh 3. Silahkan Pak. Boleh, nanti di, Bapak juga boleh dong. Sorry. Oh sama istri. Silahkan Pak, boleh kasih komen for our today's training. Gitu. Terima kasih ya ibu-ibu dan bapak-bapak. Sudah, terima kasih. Bagaimana? Hanhao? Daging semua, wow. Keren ya, gitu. Keren. Oke, mau diisi? Wah, senang mendengarnya. Terima kasih ya Bu. Ada pulpennya di depan, Ibu juga boleh isi dong, kan tamu kita juga, mewakili Bapak. Silakan. Any comments Pak? Udah jawab ya, oke ya. To accelerate gitu yang tadi sama enrich.